Hey there guys, I'm Limetime. I'm new to YugiTubing, but hopefully this is the first in a series on what it is to judge and rulings comprehension. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a YCS level judge, and all the time I get asked, how did you become a judge? I want to judge a regional, can I judge a YCS? And the first step to doing so is to pass the Rulings Comprehension 1 test, otherwise known as RC1. Once you pass this test, Julia Hedberg will send you an email confirming you are on the judge roster, you fill out all sorts of information, and then suddenly you can now judge Tier 2 and higher events. So, first step, we got to pass the test. This video will pretty much describe how to pass the test. I'll give you the basic study plan you need. I can't answer the questions for you, obviously, but I can give you a general idea of what to expect. So, there are 3 parts that you really need to focus on. So, part 1, what starts a chain? Part 2, how do chains resolve? And part 3, inherent versus non-inherent summons. Now, this doesn't cover the entire judge test, but it will give you a pretty basic idea going into it of how to answer questions. So let's start with what starts a chain. Actually, let's start with what does not start a chain. So, if I normal summon a monster, this does not start a chain. If I declare an attack, this does not start a chain. If I set a spell or trap or set a monster, this does not start a chain. What you can do is you can respond to these actions. For example, if I attack you with a Brofist Bear, you respond with Dimensional Prison. You do not chain with it. If you could chain it, that would mean Brofist Bear would be chain link 1 and Dimensional Prison would be chain link 2, which is not correct. Dimensional Prison will be chain link 1 because you are simply responding. Same with normal summoning. If I normal summon a Brofist Bear, you respond with the Bottomless Trap Hole. You do not chain it. The terminology there is very important. Players all the time casually will say, yeah, well, I chain so-and-so. This is incorrect. Do not get into the habit of saying that if you want to become a judge. Oh, another note to mention. What can I chain? So, we'll go back to the Brofist Bear. I attack you with Brofist Bear. You activate, in response, Deprison. Say I have a Xian on the field. Xian will then chain, negating Deprison. At this point, what most players don't know is that you could activate another Deprison. So, resolving backwards, it goes Deprison, Xian, Deprison. So that way, my Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear will get removed. Another important part of chains is how do they resolve? Now, I've already discussed it a little bit, but all chains resolve backwards. That being said, think of it like a stack of bricks. We're going to stack them one on top of each other, and it makes absolutely no sense to remove them starting with the bottom brick. We're going to remove them from the top. Yu-Gi-Oh! Works the same way. So say I chain 3 things in a row, the third thing, the third chain link, will be the first chain link to resolve. We're going to resolve it backwards. Now, an example of this would be, let's say I have a set Call of the Haunted. You activate MST targeting my Call of the Haunted. In response to this, I'm going to chain Call of the Haunted targeting Card Trooper. Resolving backwards, my Call of the Haunted is chain link 2. Chain link 2 resolves, summoning Card Trooper to the field. Now, MST destroys Call of the Haunted in the next chain link, but Card Trooper has met its requirement to be destroyed, therefore I get to draw a card. So, that's the basic gist of how chains work. If you have any more questions about it, just, feel free to shout out in the comments. But now I'm going to talk about inherent versus non-inherent summons. Now, for me, this was the hardest thing to learn as a judge. This was actually the last thing I mastered as a judge, because it can get pretty tricky sometimes memorizing what's an inherent summon and what's not an inherent summon. So, an inherent summon is a summon that does not start a chain. I repeat, inherent summons do not start a chain. Examples would be a normal summon, a synchro summon, an exceed summon, a fusion summon, or the summon of certain effect monsters such as BLS Envoy or Cyber Dragon. When you summon these cards, they do not start a chain. On the opposite side, we have non-inherent special summons. These summons start a chain when they are summoned. For example, Gorz, Treeborn Frog, High Priestess of Prophecy, and Abyss Megalo. Now, the difference in these is very, very critical. For example, say you want to summon Cyber Dragon. I cannot Mind Crush Cyber Dragon out of your hand. However, if you want to summon High Priestess of Prophecy, I can chain Mind Crush to High Priestess's effect to special summon. Therefore, I can Mind Crush it right out of your hand. So it goes back to the whole responding to versus chaining to. With Cyber Dragon, I can respond to its summon, I cannot chain to its summon. Now, breaking it down even further, this is, for example, the reason why you cannot Solemn Judgment a Gorz. Solemn Judgment only stops inherent summons. It does not stop monster effect summons. So this is why you can Warning a Gorz in the damage step, but you cannot Judgment a Gorz. Same with Logia and Dolka versus Gorz. I cannot Logia a Gorz because Logia only stops inherent summons, whereas Dolka stops non-inherent summons. Thunder King, for example, only stops inherent summons. It cannot stop cards such as High Priestess of Prophecy or Abyss Megalo. So another thing to cover. The judge test right now, or the RC1 test, is a bit old. I know Konami is working on making a new test right now, but as it stands, the current test still believes in Ignition Priority. For those of you that are new to the game, Ignition Priority was a thing that got changed around like March, April of last year. And it used to be, say I summon Gravekeeper's Descendant. It used to be I could activate Descendant's effect before you could bottomless trap hole my Descendant. This is no longer true. However, when answering questions on the judge test, Ignition Priority is still a thing. If you answer correctly on those questions, you will get the question wrong, lowering your score. So, that's a note of caution. For the test, you need an 80% to pass. You're also going to need your Kazi ID. So I think that's basically that's pretty much the basics of how to pass the judge test. Again, I'm not going to answer any questions for you that I know are on the judge test. That's not fair. You have to pass the test on your own. However, if you do have any general questions, feel free to leave them below in the comments. And as always, rate and subscribe.